Uh, hey, what is up, everyone? Killian, Flo, and our special guest, Invid, here, bringing you the 7th Everything Terra podcast. This week, we're going to be talking pretty much everything that there has to do with healers in the game. How they work, what their roles are, and how they differ from Priest and Mystic. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name's Killian. I make YouTube guides, whether it be gold making, power leveling, a little bit of PvP and other miscellaneous stuff, so make sure to check that out on youtube.com/Killian. I have a Berserker PvP guide on TERA today, easily your best source of TERA-related content, as well as I semi-actively stream on twitch.tv.
Hi, my name is Flo. I'm a competitive PvPer on TERA Online. I actively stream. Haven't been really streaming that much lately, but I do intend to actively stream TERA on a daily basis, mostly on PvP content. You can check out that on twitch.tv/Flowero, along with youtube.com/Flowero.
What's up, guys? My name is EnMasse here, and I am probably one of, not the very first TERA streamers, but I feel like I've been streaming forever. So I did get my base in PvE, a lot of that. So if you check out my early streams, we have a lot of the cool stuff as far as MC hard mode and T12 gear, which is really awesome. But now a lot of my streams include threes, since that's the popular thing nowadays.
All day. So now we did the introduction, guys. Like I said, this is going to be a healer-focused podcast. For those of you who don't know what a healer is, obviously, they're basically supporting and aiding their team through healing and buffs. As far as most MMORPGs being a click and just instant start spamming skills, that's not how the healing in TERA works. A majority of the healing abilities in TERA actually require you to highlight your target, recast it, and get that healing out that way. So that's kind of what differs most the Priest and Mystic class in comparison to most other MMORPGs on the market, is that real action combat healing, to where you actually feel like you're having to do something to heal instead of just tab spam buttons. So there are two kinds of healers, like I stated, in TERA, and that is the Priest and the Mystic. Essentially, each class has pretty specific differences as far as what they offer for teams and whatnot, but I'm going to actually give this over to Invid because she is our Priest specialist on the Priest.
I would say they do differ a lot. While they both have healing skills, the Priest is probably considered the stronger of the healer. They have stronger, larger, and definitely a bit more variety of heals as far as types of circles you can throw down, lock-ons, having the ability to throw a heal that's not necessarily right in front of you, but as well as throwing heals right in front of you. What also makes them popular in PvP or PvE is their rezzing ability. Both classes can res, obviously, but the priests have the option of rezzing with 120 stamina, which is kind of huge. They both have buffs. The priests tend to have a bit more variety of buffs because we can offer more than 2 at a time, which is kind of awesome, as well as a huge AoE cleanse, and I would say generally more survivability in general, just based on their CDs and stuff they have to offer.
That's survivability. What about Mystic, would you say, Flo?
Mystics are more of an offensive healer in comparison to Priest. So what Priest offers is obviously that whole defensive, really big heals, really big, like makes you feel like all protective and stuff. The Mystic really gets in there, really helps you set up those plays, like in terms of PvP, and then in PvE they give you that crit aura. They let you just have your DPS all be able to crit, and then they dropped you balls, so that way they don't really necessarily have to actively heal. You can go out of your way to pick up the balls and just kind of eat them, and self-regen yourself as well.
Eat all those balls. But one thing to really note is, since TERA is a very centric, or most DPS is centric around critting, that's why a lot of people, that's the key focal point between Mystics and Priests in terms of their viability in PvE. And let's talk a little bit more about PvE. Priests, as Invid said, have a lot of that healing. They have a lot of raw healing capability, but on top of that, whether it be those, the variety of buffs that they offer, some key points that we need to note are the energy stars, which is 25 power, or is it 20 power? 20 or 25?
It depends. It's if you glyph into it. Because glyphs gives that option now to not only extend energy stars, we could also make it stronger, 20% stronger.
Okay. And so energy stars giving that raw power boost as well as a 9% attack speed increase, as which you can maintain constantly. The Kaya Shield, which is an AoE shielding effect, which is absolutely amazing, as well as the mana charge feature. That's kind of where priests sit in PvE. Do you think that they sit in a really good position right now, Indy?
I think so. I think they've always had a lot of not only strong heals, which makes it huge, especially for progression, learning new content, like some of the stuff that's hopefully coming to us soon. But they do offer all those variety things that help support the group, as far as Energy Stars providing more power and attack speed, Kaya's Shield, that defensive barrier that allows you to take more take no damage for a small period of time, as well as the variety of heals, which is huge. And they also can provide mana several different ways, whether it's via mana charge or glyphing into it for the mana pool mana.
Mm-hmm. Well, on the other hand, we have Mystics, which they don't offer quite as much, in terms of PvE specifically, they don't offer quite as much utility, I would say, as a Priest does. But like I said, since the focus of DPS within TERA is around crits, Mystics giving double crit to their groups is absolutely insane, as well as the just passive mana aura, so you don't have to worry about if your priest is busy trying to heal people and stuff like that. To give mana back as a priest, you're having to charge up that skill. Well, mana for a Mystic, it's literally just a passive effect. Not to mention, with balls, essentially you just drop the mode of mana and the mode of health everywhere you go, and it's like, if myself as a DPS class, if I see a ball on the ground, it's easy enough to where I can be like, oh, I can pick this up. I don't have to worry about a healer not being able to heal me at that time or give me some mana at that time. What would you say, Flo? Like, which do you prefer in terms of PvE right now?
In PvE, I definitely would prefer the Mystic, just simply because of the fact that, for one, I like seeing big numbers. Having those big flashes of red when you crit something, this really helps me assure that, like, I'm doing things quickly, things are dying and such. But not only that, but just like you were saying before, the balls are actually a lot more useful than people can realize. I am getting, like, when you're doing PvE, you're having those charms. You're already having, like, your power, your infused, so you're having that extra damage already along with the mana reach, and they're offering an aura that gives you more mana, and then afterwards they're dropping mana balls for you. So I know for a fact that I can be able to constantly output the maximum possible damage for me possible with crits aside, and along with being able to pick up the mana balls, so I can continue to use skills. So I definitely prefer Mystics over Priests for PvE at the moment.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it goes back to classes. Based on your class is probably your preference of healer. Whether it's you do damage over time or you like to see big numbers like Flo, a lot of that I think piles into what your preference might be for a healer in PvE currently.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I'm with Flo personally. I prefer having a Mystic because of the reliance on crits, as well as Berserker being such a I have no mana all the time class, as in PvE as well as PvP. So I personally like playing with a Mystic, but I still love a good Priest because they're never gonna let you die pretty much.
I think that even though both of us are kind of leaning towards the Mystic, that doesn't really set Priest onto the side. You know what I'm saying? Like, just the whole Energy Stars, the whole them being able to mana charge 4 people and getting all that mana, along with just like when you're first learning a dungeon, you feel a lot more safe bringing a Priest to the Mystic. So like you take a big damage, like a big hit from a boss, and you're like, oh my god, like this is my first time seeing this. Priest comes in, boom, you're maximum HP. They crit heal you, boom, you're even more maximum HP. Like, you just feel like, I'm not gonna die as long as I have a Priest around. It makes you feel great when you're learning a dungeon. So we can't exactly leave Priests out of the window in terms of PvE.
I would say Priests love you more because, they will bring the heal to you. If you're a Mystic, it's like saying, here, go fetch, go eat my balls.
That's a good way to put it. Let's see. So I think we wrapped up PvE pretty well for the most part. So let's step into the PvP realm. This is a very heated topic for all three of us because I know we are very active PvPers, and there are analogs upon whatever books that we could write about PvP. But let's try and keep this short and simple for everybody. So PvP, what is the role of a healer in PvP?
Don't let your team die. I think it depends what type of healer you are, whether you are offensive or defensive. And then that really, of course, depends on your teammate. If you have a team that's all about pressure and running and you want to support them while keeping them alive, because chances are they're taking a crap ton of damage trying to kill somebody. But if you're a Mystic, then not only are you having to deal with that healing that you don't have that a Priest has, but you're also using your CC to your advantage to overcome that lack of heals, I think.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, basically just supporting your team and adjusting accordingly. Another question I'm going to throw at you, Envy. What would you say the basic PvP concepts of a healer are? Because I know there are tons of people who are coming into TERA every single day really looking to understand how they can get into PvP, especially 3v3, because that's like the center, the high-end PvP. So what do you think the core concepts and practices of a healer should be?
I think from just, learning from my favorite priest and just my experience in the arena, I would have to say it really boils down to, one, awareness, obviously. And that ties into my second point, which would be positioning. If you're aware, then you're going to be able to notice the sleeps or other CCs that your team is throwing out, as well as if another DPS is amping up, like a Zerker, for example, popping all those buffs and ready to chase you down. That also, you need awareness for your positioning, so you need to know, like, okay, they're going to sleep me, but I have no backstep, I have no GS as a priest, which are my two, like, get out of jail free cards. I need to be near a pillar, I need to be near my team, but I need to be able to cleanse, and I need to be able to do all these things that come into play in an arena.
Mm-hmm. Flo, what would you say, being the DPS, with that standpoint, what do you think the core things a healer needs to recognize when playing with, like, a Slayer, for example, or just DPS in general?
I think they need to understand that they need to kind of keep up with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, just having yourself stand out, like is telling me that you're already going to definitely be a target regardless of what's going to happen. And if you want to help me get my job done when I'm trying to kill someone, I need to ensure that, one, you are in a safe position to not die. Two, you're making sure that I can stay alive. And three, you are multitasking. You're not only having to be aware, like as Envy say, having that awareness of being aware of what the opponents are doing along with what your team is doing, but just having that sort of multitasking and just supporting us while making sure that you are always in a safe position to get your job done. And that's what I think healers in general need to kind of learn, especially in this 3v3 environment.
Definitely. So I want to talk a little bit more about, first we'll start off with priests, like what they offer to the team, and kind of, not to go, like I said, not to go too advanced into it, but how do you go about using your kit? Like, could you explain some of the abilities that you have, such as Kaya's and Gia's?
Sure. Obviously, Kaya's is a huge deal. It gives your team basically a barrier that protects them for 14k worth of damage. So that allows them not to get staggered into things. So if you know they're going to go, as J/Demoralize would say, if you know they're going to go hard, you can give them that barrier that is an offensive way to use it to protect them, to allow them to make that big play. So you can also use it as a defensive barrier if they're really low and you're trying to get a heal off, or if you're getting staggered and they're taking a ton of damage, that'll give you that small window to get the heal out, not get staggered, and be able to heal your team. Mm-hmm. Another huge one as a priest is the huge AoE cleanse we have. It's not really fancy, but it's massive, and being in position to be able to use that is awesome, and definitely a huge part of the game. Energy stars is definitely an offensive skill, like we talked about earlier. It's the same stars that you use in PvP, but you do have the two options of glyphing into it, whether it's for duration or improved improved power for it. A huge part of the game right now, just because there's so much damage with Noctiniums, is Plague of Exhaustion, which is similar to the Mystic's Regression. It removes all the enemy's buffs. So anything a Zerker, for example, would pop, just come and try and smack you with and across the face and one-hit you, you can take away their buffs and pretty much guarantee that you're going to live, as long as you don't get in some knockdown chain. Yeah,
definitely. And I think utilizing those skills appropriately is really what separates a good priest from, a bad priest. Knowing when to use those skills, how to use those skills, and as long as you practice that, you're going to become better and better and better, as well as the basic concepts which we talked about earlier. Now to give some Mystics some love, though. Mystics offer an array of CC being the crowd control. Priests don't offer quite as much because they only have one sleep spell, as well as just a slow from their fire escape. But Mystics have a plethora. This being, they have a Fear, which is an instant cast. It's very, very hard to dodge, which will instantly start fearing the target, making them run around. They can't avoid anything at that point in time, which then leading that into one of their sleeps, or their sleep. Mystics with that CC, that combo specifically, it's almost a guaranteed form of CC on the opposing healer, on the opposing DPS, which is one core aspect that Mystics have to go by, as well as on top of the Fear and the Sleep, they have a stun ball, an AoE stun ball, which I believe with cooldown it's down to like 24 seconds, 22 seconds of a cooldown, something along those lines. But it's an AoE stun ball which can be absolutely key in capitalizing setups with your team. I think a lot of people underestimate Mystics a lot of the time, but whenever they get in the hands of a good Mystic, it can absolutely turn the tide of battle. What would you say about Mystics, Flo?
I think that a lot of people don't realize that despite the fact that even though Mystics got nerfed a couple months ago, that Mystics, their kit is still like kind of like really out of this world. They're really capable of doing a lot of things, and just the idea, just the fact that they just can pretty much be able to 1v1 any other any priest like in a 3v3 match is kind of like keeping them out of the fight, disabling someone, or for example if your DPS is going onto their enemy healer, just being able to really take out potentially 1 to 2 people out of the fight completely is what really makes Mystics shine in comparison to Priest. I think that Mystics just, even though it has like that sort of learning curve to it, in a sense where you have to really learn how to manage really well, and also with the whole positioning, even though your healers are not, your heals itself are not as great as Priest, just being able to really control your kit and being able to really put out those offensive spells is what, stands out between a good Mystic and a great Mystic. So I think Mystics are definitely a great class to play with, and I sure enjoy playing with one. I don't know about you.
Definitely. In 3v3, I personally, because we actually have a bit of time that we can continue talking right now, but in 3v3 specifically, I personally prefer playing with a Priest. I feel that they're, in my opinion, a slightly stronger class right now. In some situations, of course, especially with the Berserker. Going back on the ability Kaya's Shield, I'm not sure how often you've played with Berserkers, but basically any time that I'm looking for a kill, any time that I'm having to charge up heavily, and I don't have my Mocking Shout, which is a stagger immunity and stagger and knockdown immunity, if my Mocking Shout falls off while I'm going up for a kill, and I don't have any form of stops on the DPS who are constantly training me and attacking me, because Berserkers are a pretty high priority target a lot of the time, I can't do anything. Have you ever played with a Berserker, Envy?
I have. I used to play with Bluehole back in the day, so I played with him, and Skysing actually was the Zerker Archer comp that I ran for a little bit, which was probably the funnest comp I've ever run with.
What would you say? What would you say like about playing with that kind of composition as a priest?
I think communication is really the key there between your DPS, but as well as your healer, being able to know, okay, he's got all his buffs up, he's getting ready to go in, I have to be able to support him, whether it's via Cleanse, Kaya's, Arise is a huge skill that you need to use in threes. A lot of priests don't use it as often as they should, and it gets kind of overlooked, but being able to stand your players up and get them right back in the game is huge.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how many times I've jumped, though, when Priest use that on me. It's like, oh, look at this guy, he's jumping all over. Which you're not supposed to do, by the way, for anyone who does PvP. Do not jump. But definitely, I like having the Kaya Shield just with the Berserker class. I think it melds really, really well. But of course, it comes down to what composition you're playing. What about you, Flo? Which do you typically prefer to play with?
Oh, well, as much as I love to talk about how great Mystics are with their crit aura and how offensive they are and how it kind of matches my personality and such, when it comes right down to me maining a Slayer and really trying to get my job done, the Priest is always there with me. The synergy that my class has with the Priest is kind of really insane. They're always there to support me and catch my back whenever I get interrupted by one DPS or like getting attacked by another one, it's just like when things kind of get out of control, I know for a fact that the priest is there to back me up, since they can adapt to so many situations, and they're definitely there when the worst case scenario happens in a 3v3, and I just like they have the potential to turn things around by a large margin in comparison to Mystic, in my opinion. So to me, it's like priests. I love priests. You know, you guys can heal me all you want. That's great.
I think priests just definitely have a stronger recovery in the arena, maybe, just because they do have more types of heals. I mean, the Mystic basically has 2 heals. They have the ball that you can pick up, and they have a lock on, as opposed to a priest where I have 5 types of heals. So it's a huge difference. And I do play Mystic as well. I have a Mystic that is 16. I've played it in the arena previously, so it's good to have a comparison. They're really different. They're really different play styles.
Definitely. One thing that I was wanting to ask you, what does it feel like in PvP to be going up against a Mystic as a priest?
Honestly, I would always rather go against a priest than a Mystic, just because their CC is really intimidating. But if you work on those things that, you know, the awareness and your positioning, which I am always constantly working on because I'm definitely not the best at it, but it's something that'll definitely help you. Being able to pillar their sleep, or you know that they're going to end up jaunting and trying to stun ball you in the face, because that's their famous combo is stun ball into sleep, and then you're out of the game for a couple seconds. So being able to kind of gauge the Mystic you're against, knowing their playstyle, knowing if they're going to come hit you in the face, being able to pillar it is like huge.
Oh, they'll never take me alive.
That's what happens when you're alt tabs.
I suppose so, but they didn't catch me, so I'm good. This is why we don't record outside of whatever out of safe zones. All right. But yeah, so for the most part, I definitely think that healers obviously play a absolutely necessary part of TERA. Today, we talked about a couple of key features, being like how they separate themselves both in PvE and PvP, and just overall what utility they bring as far as certain compositions, as far as like I said, PvE and PvP, bringing about their Kaya shield on Priest, their Geas on Priest, their massive cleanse on Priest, or the Mystic heavy crit aura, lots of CC. And I think overall we did a fairly good job overviewing it, especially with your help, Inbeat, being such a old school Priest player, basically. Let's see.
Since beta.
Yep. See, I just started my Zerker only a year ago. I'm still a youngin'. Do y'all have any conclusive thoughts, would you say? Okay.
It doesn't really matter what healer you end up playing in terms of PvP or PvE or whatever. They're both good. They're both different playstyles. I'll be both. Please heal me in solo queue. And, yeah. Like, I'm sure when it comes right down to it, remember that people have their own preferences regardless of what kind of healer you play, and there might be some people that like priests and some people that like mystics, and just really, if you're gonna stick with one healer, play it to its best potential. They both have really, really, really high levels of potential, and they both really stand out regardless. So.
Yeah, that would be what I would say. I would say that they both definitely have their strengths and their weaknesses, things that they excel at and things that the other class does better. However, if you just keep practicing your class and whatever fits your playstyle and that you're comfortable with, you'll get to a point to where you'll feel it kind of start to kick in and things will go a little bit smoother, but just practice, practice, practice.
Definitely. You know, and that's one thing, just TERA in general, that I say, play whatever class you enjoy, stick with it, because eventually, as long as you learn it and continue to practice it, you'll become one of the best players in that class. Thank you all for watching, guys. This is the part where we do our plug lives. So, for those of you who don't know me, or probably do know me now, I make sure to check out my YouTube, youtube.com/Kilrian. Basically, any guides that you want to see. Check out TERA Today, one of our sponsors, actually, for any K-TERA related information, as well as information, as well as our podcast actually gets posted there every single week, so make sure to check that out. If you want to follow me to know anytime I start streaming on twitch.tv/Kilrian or upload a video, make sure to follow me on Twitter @Kilrian.
If you want to see what my sort of content, of course, you guys are like, so for those that are already watching my stream, you can check me out at Twitch TV/FlowerWorld. There's that button in the bottom left. You can click that. You can see when I pop up as well. Then not only that, but I also have my content along with my PvP like specific stuff over on YouTube.com/FlowerWorld. If you look down at the bottom, I have this box called Other Streamers, which also feature both Kyrian and Envy, both the cool, stand-up people in this podcast right now. Feel free to check out their streams too. I highly recommend it, and I of course enjoy watching their streams as such.
Well, if you guys didn't know me, now you do. My name is Envied, and you can follow me here on Twitch at Envied Imperfection, or head over to Facebook, where it's just Envied, as well as my website. There's a link on my Twitch as well. And if you really want to hang out with me, you can feel free to hit me up on Twitter at TheEnvied, because I just started that. Apparently tweeting is a thing, and I'm supposed to do it, so I'm working on it. But if you want to see more Priest play, or have any questions about Priest or Mystic, because I do play both, whether it's in Skyrim or threes, there's tons of past broadcast videos and stuff like that. And if you're more into PvE, I have that for you too underneath my highlights, as well as the famous Tier 12 MC hard mode run, as well as some really interesting clips of some of the top players in TERA right now, being all sorts of awesome.
Thank you all for watching, guys. This was the 7th Everything TERA podcast. Don't forget to like, comment what you want to see next week, as well as subscribe to each of our respective YouTube channels, or follow us on our respective Twitch channels. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. Catch y'all next time.
See ya.
Bye.